Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a study that's cracking a genetic code that could literally save lives. We're going to explore how scientists solved a huge medical mystery and found a powerful new way to predict who's really at risk for severe heart failure.
All right, so let's jump right in with a puzzle that has, for the longest time, just stumped cardiologists. Think about this. You've got this one genetic flaw. For some people, it's totally manageable with treatment. They can live a pretty normal life. But for others, the exact same kind of flaw, it's a straight path to end-stage heart failure, maybe even needing a transplant. So what gives? Why the massive difference?
So to get our heads around this, we need to talk about a condition called dilated cardiomyopathy, or DCM for short. Basically, it's when the heart's main pump, the left ventricle, gets all stretched out and weak. And when that happens, it just can't pump blood the way it's supposed to. This is really the heart of the problem we're looking at today.
And that brings us to this absolute giant of a gene called Titin. And I mean giant. It's the central character in this whole paradox. This gene is crucial for keeping your heart muscles springy and structured. You see, little flaws in this Titin gene are the #1 genetic reason people get DCM. But here's the wild part, the paradox. On one hand, DCM caused by Titin flaws is known to be one of the most responsive to therapy. But on the other hand, it's also the most common genetic cause that leads to people needing a heart transplant. How can it be both the best and the worst? The outcomes have been just tragically unpredictable.
So for years, doctors had a tool they used to try and predict a patient's risk. But honestly, it was kind of like trying to make out a face in a really blurry photograph. You know, you can see the big shapes, but all those critical, life-changing details, they were just gone.
Yeah, that old tool was a metric called PSI-SR. And look, it could do some things. It could tell doctors if a patient's specific Titin problem made them likely to get sick in the first place. But, and this is the huge but, it had no way of telling them how bad it was going to be. It couldn't separate a manageable case from a really, really dangerous one.
And it all boiled down to this one number. The old model basically said, okay, if a faulty piece of the gene was used more than 90% of the time, we're calling it high risk. That's it. But that's such a blunt instrument, right? It just lumped way too many different people into the same bucket. It just wasn't precise enough when you're making life or death decisions.
So how do you sharpen that blurry picture? Well, researchers decided to bring in the big guns. They turned to some seriously powerful new technology to get a much, much closer look at this Titin gene. Okay, so instead of the old way of doing things, short-read sequencing, they used this amazing technique called long-read RNA sequencing. This let them see the entire complete recipe for the Titin protein, not just little snippets. And what they found was, wow, just wow. The old model was working off like 3 main versions of the gene. But this new technique, it found that the heart is actually using 16 different versions, or isoforms. By taking all of them into account, they built a brand new, way sharper metric, PSI-LR. And this is where we get to the breakthrough. With this new high-res lens, that blurry picture of patient risk, it just snapped right into focus. Crystal clear. So they took this new metric and tested it on 98 patients. And the results? They were absolutely stunning. This table really says it all. The old metric, PSI-SR, it had 0, and I mean 0 ability to predict who would get advanced heart failure. That p-value of 0.991, that basically means its predictions were as good as a random guess. But the new metric, PSI-LR, it was a powerhouse predictor. A p-value of 0.038, now that's statistically significant. It means the results are real, not just a fluke.
And this chart, man, this just lays it all out. Look at the patients with a high PSLR score. Almost 3/4 of them, 72%, ended up with advanced heart failure. Now, look at the other group, the ones with a low score. How many of them got severely ill? 0. Not a single person. That is the clear dividing line they were hoping to find. It's incredible.
So it all comes down to this one simple number, this new threshold. If your score is below 0.75, it effectively singles out a group of patients who, yeah, they still have the condition, but they don't progress to that severe, life-threatening stage. This is the game changer. And look, this isn't just some interesting finding for a science journal. This has huge real-world consequences for doctors, for patients, for their families. It's set to change how they manage this disease right from day one. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that we've gone from a one-size-fits-all guess to truly personalized medicine for these hard patients. Doctors can now spot the high-risk folks early and watch them like a hawk, getting them ready for advanced therapies if they need them.
But just as important, they can finally look at the low-risk patients and give them some real reassurance. Tell them, hey, our goal here is recovery, without that constant fear of a transplant hanging over their heads. It's about turning all this complicated genetic data into a tool that actually saves lives.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The study authors said it themselves. This work addresses a critical need that's been unmet for years. It's filling a massive gap in cardiology, bringing clarity where before there was just so much uncertainty.
You know, this whole breakthrough is about so much more than just one gene. It's really a window into the future of medicine, a future where our own DNA can give us a roadmap for our health. So as we get better and better at reading that map, it makes you wonder, right? How will this change not just how we treat disease, but how we even think about what it means to be at risk in the first place?